Do you often revisit the past? Today, we're not gonna lie.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of NGL where we talk about the things in life that matter. I'm Natasha.
I'm Zeleny.
And today we're back with another episode. And in today's episode, right, we're talking about something that I'm personally quite interested in. So some time ago, the movie Inside Out came out, right? The new one. And there was this very new character that the minute she appeared on screen, right, everybody in the cinema kind of like laughed and had a reaction to it, right? And it's because it was an old grandma called Nostalgia.
Oh, yes!
Right? So
she was so cute.
yeah, she was so cute. She came out with her like super big hair in the bun and then like was an old lady. Like Riley is actually only a teenager.
Yeah.
Right? But as a teenager, somehow there's this like character, this little grandma
That
living in
pops
her
out.
called Nostalgia.
Yeah.
And so we thought that it would be quite interesting to explore this topic on NGL because, you know, sometimes we think of nostalgia and you may think of it as like an old grandma, right? Or like something for old people who like to look back on the past. But that's not true. Because like, for one, Riley is a teenager, but also, like I think as we were doing some reading for this episode, right, we found that actually even for young adults who go through many transitions in their life, nostalgia is something that they begin to experience quite a bit. And so, given that we're a podcast for young people, young adults, we thought, why not talk about nostalgia today lah? So we've invited two people who I know personally and I know to be quite nostalgic. So we're going to have quite an interesting conversation today. Why don't you tell us who you are?
So I'm Geraldine. I am Nata's friend and I'm very happy to be here because I always watch the show.
Thank you.
Finally made it onto the set.
Thank you for the
Yeah,
support.
today she came on set, right? Then she take picture. It's like a tour for her.
It's like a tourist attraction for
Yeah,
me.
then you you finally made it.
But I'm very nostalgic. And actually this was came at a very interesting time because I just had a lot of change in my life.
Okay.
So in the past 3-4 months, I changed my job. I got married. I moved house. And I changed my cell group at church also. So it's many things
transitions.
going on for me. And I've been feeling very nostalgic this season.
Hello everybody, I'm Eating. I'm also a long-time friend of Nata. And I think I'm not going through a lot of transition right now, but I think when Nata asked me like, hey, are you a nostalgic person? I immediately say yes, because I think I'm a hoarder. Like I keep a lot of things.
Another title for this episode is Beginnings of a Hoarder.
It's true. Like I keep a lot of things from my childhood. Like I keep a lot of Pokemon stickers. I think I have hundreds over Pokemon stickers. And I keep like my VCD cartoons, like my 蜡笔小新, my Pokemon. Yes, so I'm a hoarder. I'm always scolded by my wife. When I try to keep a lot of different things.
Zel, are you nostalgic as a person?
I would say my nostalgia switch turns on, right, when I hear certain songs. Yeah, and like, okay, I very old school lah. Like, I only listen to Class 95. Haven't hit gold.
90 FM.
Yeah, 90 FM. Yeah, but like Class 95, you know, like you're still hearing songs of my youth, you know, so like 20 years ago.
Backstreet Boy.
Yeah, or like all the teenage angst, you know, like the punk rock. Yeah,
Every
so
time I go karaoke with Zel, right, she always screams numb. She must sing numb.
like have to, it's my warm-up song.
Yes.
It's a very
Now you all know
intense
her
warm-up.
vocal prowess and numb is her warm-up song.
Wow, but like, yeah, so it's like, I don't know, when I listen to those songs, right, I get transported back to that time.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
you're like an angry teenager, then you think the whole world against you.
I'm just a kid.
And life is a nightmare. yeah. So, it turns on that switch lah. Nata, nostalgia for you?
I am. I frequently rewatch my old Instagram stories. As far back as Instagram will allow me. Because I
Like
think they have a
2018.
limit. Yes, they have a limit on the number of years.
You must be so happy that the archive thing came out and then you can start putting highlights and all.
Yeah,
right?
but then right, there was one day when I scrolled back, I realized I can't go back further than 2018. I was very sad. I was like, what happened to all my memories?
Sometimes I also scroll back. That's why I know it goes back to
Yeah,
2018.
that's why when she said that, like this person knows what I'm talking about. No, and I didn't even think it was weird. I thought everybody does it. Until one day, one of my friends said, why are you always rewatching old things? I'm like, is that not normal? So yeah, I watch old things quite a bit. I store a lot of the memories in my head.
Wow.
So like I remember
Pictorial.
moments with people, events more than these kind of like items. So to me, the items are like okay lah, but I keep the memories with the people in my head. So that one I revisit all the time.
Wow. Wow, that's so interesting. I think like the nostalgia really plays out differently for us, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think is one thing that you're nostalgic about?
My childhood. Or you mean items? Or I
Like
guess
whenever you think back, revisit the past, right? Like what do you think about?
I think I keep a lot. I think, as I mentioned, right, I think I keep a lot of childhood items. Okay, actually, I brought this sticker book. Should I?
Yeah, show us
Might
what
as
you have
well, right?
hoarded.
Yeah. Please show the camera.
So
also. Wow, it looks old, man.
Wow.
so like,
I can see the dust, right?
yeah, like it's turning
It's
yellow,
yellowing.
and then like I
They're
have,
gonna start
like,
sneezing already.
What
These people.
so like last time before like Avengers happened, like there's this like this.
Everybody knows how old you
Okay,
are.
okay, okay, shall not look at. Yeah, so I have like
what
all
is
this like
Wow.
Pokemon sticker, right? So I think for me, when I look at these things, I think it transports
cute, eh?
me back to those memories that I have that were happy in the during my childhood. That I really, I think for me, I guess part of it is also I think my childhood wasn't really that great. I think I didn't really have a great childhood, and so whatever little nice memory that I have of those childhood, I treasure them and I keep them so that I remember that, there were happy moments, there were happy times.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a bit like it reminds you that not everything is bad. There are some good things that you can treasure.
Yeah, that's right.
Wow, okay.
Sometimes I will pass by my old Tampines house, like my first house. And yeah, then sometimes I will tell my friends when we walk past, or when I'll tell my child like, oh, that's where Papa stayed a long time ago. Like,
You are that dad now.
yeah.
On that note about the childhood house, because actually just last week I moved into my own house. I moved out of my childhood home and into my own home, right? So it made me so nostalgic about my childhood home. I was like taking photos of my bedroom. I took picture of the kitchen, the living room, the toilet. I took a mirror selfie in the toilet.
News to me. I really
This
want so
is-
many pictures.
This is really recent. Yeah, because I live in this home for like 20 years. So I think
Okay, that's really
as much
quite-
as I was super excited to move into this new home with my husband, but I also just felt so nostalgic.
Yeah.
I just feel like, I'll miss this childhood home so much. This was like the only home I knew for the past 20 years.
Do you
and to
feel
be
like
living
scared or what? Like, is it like you feel like you leave a part of you behind, kind of thing? Like, what was the?
What does it feel like?
Yeah,
I think it was very bittersweet because I was excited about moving, right? But I feel like, wow, this was the only home I knew because, most of my memories were in this home, and this is where I had so many memories of just being in the home by myself or with my family, right? So I think there was also that part of fear and sadness.
it's like leaving a sense of familiarity.
Yeah, like leaving a home, not just a house, but to me it was a home. So to leave that was a bit scary for me.
Yeah,
And like I already know that I'm gonna miss it. So it was a bit of like anticipatory longing for this home
Wow.
again.
Okay, I saw this TikTok, right, that I thought was very interesting. This lady was talking about nostalgia, and she said that actually, she quoted, I think, BJ Novak. So they're saying that like nostalgia, right, actually is the memory of the past minus the anxiety of the past. So a lot of times when we look back, right, the reason why we have a very positive impression of the past is that you look back on it in a bit of like rose-tinted lenses, where you remember, let's say your story of moving out of your childhood home, right? You look back and you think of this place as a very positive place with positive memories, which I'm sure it was. But we also kind of like remove the negative memories from this place, so that when we look back on it, we're like, oh, that was such a wonderful part of my past. That was a great memory. But to actually go through it and live through the reality again may not always be so rosy lah. Do you feel like that's true for you?
So actually Nata sent me this TikTok
Yeah, because she's my nostalgia friend.
like a few months
One of
ago.
those, right?
yeah.
Yeah, and then like before she invited me here, I was actually reading this book. Sound very nerdy.
She's a nostalgia
But
nerd.
Anyway, it's a really good book. It's called Atlas of the Heart. It talks about different emotions, and nostalgia was one of them.
Okay.
And to me, it was super interesting because the nostalgia, the word when it was first coined, it was actually a sickness. So in the late 1600s, this medical student or this medical person, he noticed like in a lot of his patients who live far away from home, they had like this sickness that, and even like very physical symptoms like losing appetite, being unable to sleep. And so he came up with this word nostalgia, and in the original Greek word, it meant like homecoming pain, something like that. So that pain that came from
Thinking of
missing
home,
home and thinking of home.
Homesick lah, literally.
Yeah, literally
and I think
homesick.
like now when we think of nostalgia, it's a very positive word, right? It's like, oh, I feel nostalgic about this.
Like you got keepsake.
Oh, the good old days.
Yeah.
But it perhaps that word has a very dark past.
I think
as
there's
well.
there's so much history and it's so deep to that word itself.
Yeah.
I wonder, like, does it play out still, like this sickness in like today's age? Because I'm just thinking off the top of my head, right? I mean, I do hear this term called like being stuck in the past or, dwelling in the past. Yeah, where I think people feel that their best days are over. The best years. You either think that the best years of your life are ahead of you.
Yeah.
And then, you are like a go-getter. You are excited about your future. Yeah. Or conversely, it's like you think that, I lived my best years already. They were like back in secondary school, where, I had like freedom. I wasn't so knocked down by life. Yeah.
Actually, what you say is interesting because just now Yi Ting mentioned how his childhood memories kind of reminds you that there were happy things in the past. But then there's also the whole idea of being stuck in the past, right? And it's very different.
Would y'all say like, would y'all like kind of get lost in the past for yourself? Or there's, actually nostalgia does play out differently in how you see your past
I think it does play out both ways.
for you.
Yeah. So I think the happy part is, I think the positive or the impact is it reminds me of things that happen that are good. And I think it's sort of also, just now we were talking about Inside Out, right? And I think one of the themes that was discussed a lot about Inside Out, the movie, was about your sense of self, your sense of worth. And a lot of times it's sort of linked back to those memories that Riley sort of
core memories.
those core memories. Not Riley, but the character Joy.
Joy.
I think for me, nostalgia sort of play out in that way of it creates a sense of self, a sense of worth that, for me, despite things were bad, but there were good things, good parts of my life that like is worth remembering, and like it gives me strength and give me hope in that sense.
For like the future.
For the future or for like the current, like there were good things and then I can be grateful about. Right. But I think there is also that negative part that will play out. I think for me it's sometimes in terms of friendships. I don't know, like I guess part of growing up, like for us as young adults, you sort of, your friends, I mean, when we were studying, right, all your friends were sort of in the same life station. You sort of spend time together. The things that you guys go through are the same. The talking points were always the same, right? But once you come to adulthood, it's sort of like everyone's everywhere.
Yeah.
Diverge a lot.
Yeah, and I think the part about good old days, I think it plays out for me in the area of friendship. Like, wow, I miss those kind of like friendships. Yeah.
Do you wish that it could still be like that now?
Some days. I think a few years back when we were like, I was going through a transition of like parenthood, right? Whereby, it's a big life transition, and I think in that transition, I think parenthood sometimes can be a bit lonely, especially in the initial days, whereby your schedule and everything sort of go into chaos, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes you wish like, okay, there's some form of stability, like you have some core friends that will, be around and you
Be at the trenches with you.
But sometimes reality just doesn't play out that way, right? Everyone have their own priorities.
Yeah.
And I think I entered into parenthood during COVID period.
Man.
Right. So
Even more
it's
isolating.
Yeah. So I think in that transition, in that phase, it's sort of like, wow, I wish those good old friends were there.
Yeah.
And I really wanted that. And when I didn't have that, I think there was some sort of bitterness that actually came out. That like, yeah. So I think that's how it plays out for me.
Yeah, it can be double-edged nostalgia.
I think now that you say this, then I think about how like, when I first started working and I realized like, wow, I really don't get to see my friends much anymore. Because especially like compared to secondary school or even in uni when we live on campus and my friends are just around me all the time. Versus when I'm working, it's like if I meet one friend a week,
Wow, that's very
it's a good week. You know, very different. Yeah, and I just think like, wow, I really miss like being so close with my friends when I was younger, when we were, you know, just a lot closer physically with my friends. And I think when you were sharing that also, then it got me thinking actually, like, you know, the whole idea of being stuck in the past. I feel that I'm experiencing that to some level now because like, as for example, like just now I shared about my childhood home, right? Like, I think like, I just think it just like, even though I'm excited about moving, but I just feel like there's that part of me that like, wow, I'm really going to miss this place. And I'm also fearful about the new change. Or when I recently moved into my new job also, then I think I just felt very disoriented because I think like at my previous job, you know, I had 3-4 years worth of friendship. I had 3-4 years worth of experience in that particular role. But then when I change, it's like, I only know these people for a few days, a few weeks. And naturally, like the conversations are not the same. They are really great people that I've come to know a lot more and be a lot more comfortable with. But it's not the same. It's not the same. But I also have to be aware that like it's different. Like I can't compare, you know, 3-4 years of friendship and work to like just a few weeks. And I think because of that, then it was very easy to kind of really miss my previous job, really miss the past. I think like, wow, back then it was so good. But then if I really think back then, actually at the start of that previous job, it was also hard, right?
You started out that way as well.
I started out in the same way, you know, not knowing people very well, not knowing the job very well. So sometimes I catch myself being stuck in the past in that sense.
It almost like it becomes a point of comparison for you. Like, like now is
also, it's like a benchmark of how maybe we might view the quality of our life right now.
Actually, you saying this reminded me of a comment I made when I was in uni. Because like I entered uni being quite resistant to making new friends. And I realized it was because I came from a background in like a 6-year program, secondary school JC, right? Where I felt like I had so many good friends that filled so much of my heart that there's no more space in my heart for new people.
I thought you're extroverted.
No, I am not.
She is not.
Yeah. Like I don't like to make new friends. So I feel being in a 6-year school kind of like masked that problem because I don't really need to make new friends. I'm not really in a new environment for very long.
The adjustments must be...
Yeah, like I enter into uni. Like last time we always say like I come from this school, right? Then we say how to spot this, like who come from your school. In uni, you see next to them got another 2 people from the same school. So we all just hang around each other and like we all don't want to make new friends. But like I remember making this comment to my like JC friends when I was in uni, right? That I said like I feel very thankful that like we met each other when we were younger, when there was more space in our hearts to hold each other deeply. And that was like like I feel I didn't know it then, but now I'm realizing that maybe it was also very fueled by my nostalgia of like living in the good memories of the past, the depth of friendship that I just feel in this new life station where people maybe already hold other people in their hearts. Like I don't think I'm gonna get to experience this depth of friendship anymore. So it just makes me not want to really try to put myself out there. Yeah. But I think along the way then I learned to be open-minded to realize that actually you can hold different people in your heart in different ways and it can all still be quite meaningful. Yeah. So in some sense, I think my positive experience in uni helped me to break out of that whole like just dwelling in the past, thinking about my old friends, always missing them, maybe even feeling a bit sad when I feel like other people have moved on.
I want to like say that when Yi-Qing shared about how nostalgia, the positive side of nostalgia, right, that kind of like builds like the sense of self. So one thing I feel very nostalgic about is my secondary school days. I was from a girls' school. There were no boys, so there were no problems.
Boys equals problems.
Yeah. So like I think it was just, you know, a time where you just explore just, you know, your first taste at independence. And then like for girls, you share like your whole life about everything when you get your first period Then after that, like, you know, all this guy, you don't get it?
I cannot relate.
So I did not keep my first period pad.
That's a little
That's
nasty.
extreme.
Maybe I should do that. It's a bit gross.
That's damn nasty.
I kept my tooth, you know, like when your tooth, the baby teeth drop.
You still have it now?
No lah, throw away already lah. So
you get married to
gross.
Talon. This is yours now.
But
It's
my
like the
dad,
wedding ring, right? Not diamond.
but my dad actually keep my umbilical cord.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I think a few years ago, yeah. So a few years
Welcome
ago,
back to
right?
the conversation.
He suddenly like passed me a few things, right? One was like my umbilical cord that he kept like since what 30 plus year ago. And then he passed it to me in an ang bao. Plus he passed me also like this, I think, okay.
Oh,
Do you bring it here? Okay, let's
Okay, I didn't
bring
bring the
your
umbilical
umbilical cord,
It's
eh?
too precious. And then like he also passed
Can
me
you
this
describe it to our Spotify
this,
listeners? Yeah.
It's an old calendar.
old calendar that
Like the kind that the gas company give you.
correct.
Cheaping,
And it's
sewing, material supply.
Yes. So like, is this really old little small calendar that was dated year 1990?
wow.
Like which one?
There.
1990, right?
Wow.
You're not even born.
Yeah. So I think that was my birth year lah. So apparently he kept that plus my umbilical cord, and he just like
Wow, your dad is very sentimental.
So I guess that's where I got it from, right?
Oh my
and
gosh.
and
My dad don't even know like what school I go.
19. Oh yeah. So yeah, people can
Got my
yeah.
degree wrong. Wow.
This is crazy.
And I think when he gave it to me,
Yeah, how do you
Oh my
feel?
gosh.
so my dad and I, we didn't really have a very good past. And I think growing up, I always feel like he don't really love me, or like he just didn't really have a very good impression and relationship with him. And I felt very hurt by different things that he did, right? So when he passed me this, I think something sort of broke, or something, a realization of that, hey, he actually loved me. Like
Wow.
despite my assumption that he didn't love me, he didn't love the family, he didn't, all this. I realized that, wow, the fact that he held on to these things, that means it meant
Yeah.
a lot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
right? And I think him giving that to me, I think that expressed his love for me. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's very sweet.
It's very, and I think it probably took, quite a bit of from him to put all this together and pass it to you also. Wow, no
And
wonder
the
it's
fact
like
that he
precious.
cherished these things
For so many
for
years.
so many years.
Yeah.
And like it's this remembering. It's not just the act of remembering, but in this case, it's like it's an act of love. And it speaks love in that
Yeah, yeah.
sense as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I just find it so interesting because I was sharing, right? I read that thing that nostalgia actually had very dark origins. But I think this whole conversation is like, actually there's that good part of it as
Yeah,
well.
yeah,
That
yeah.
when we remember things, it's an act of love, and it
Yes.
also builds that sense of self, like you were saying. I'm
Yeah.
sure like it also tells you like, hey, you were loved as a child, you were loved as a son.
Yeah.
And I feel like for me, that's a good lesson as well. That even
It's
when I
something you
go
can
through all
keep.
of these things, actually looking back is also a good thing.
So I wanted to layer that. I feel like what you're experiencing in your present has an impact. So for example, if actually in my present, right, I'm quite dissatisfied with my reality, then being stuck in the past, in some sense, it's a way out of that.
It's a bit of escape, right?
Yeah. Like I feel like there are some people who are often stuck in the past because their present reality is very dissatisfying. So if you're there, then maybe that's what complicates it, like being stuck versus like learning the good things that come out of it. Yeah.
And maybe that's kind of what I feel when I change job also, because it's like, it's very hard to learn everything and meet new people all over again. Then it makes me keep thinking back
Yeah.
to like what it used to be like.
Yeah.
But maybe like as I go along, these feelings won't be so strong.
So is
as
it
well.
to be open to
Yeah, how do
new
you deal with that
experiences?
when, let's say, that the wave, of nostalgia hits and you are not, feeling good about your work day or the relationships that you have now?
I think I try to remind myself that like I'm not making a fair comparison of like just a few weeks or months versus years in a certain job.
True lah,
And I tell myself like if I want to compare, then I have to compare apple to apple. Like what was it like at the start of my previous job? Because I think sometimes some of these thoughts that come into my mind, it's quite involuntary, right? It's not that I'm actively trying to think back of my past and dwell on it. But sometimes along the day, these thoughts will just come up. Like if I'm struggling with something at work, then I'll just think like, I used to be able to do this really quickly in my previous job. And it's involuntary in that sense. But I just have to remind myself, I think.
It's true. I think it's the fact that in a dissatisfying like present reality, right? You're comparing like the lowest point to a previous high point. So like I imagine, like I think about some of my friends who I feel are very, very nostalgic and often talk about the past as if their best days were behind them. I think it's because they compare like the peak of friendship, the peak of simplicity, the peak of, you know, just being able to live freely with all the, what I would consider lower points now. Like you feel lonely, you feel very strapped by responsibility, you are not very sure where your life is headed, and you feel like there's so many decisions to make. But like what you said, perhaps that's not always a fair comparison. And I feel maybe what I'm getting from you also is that even at the lowest point now, there's a way to be open to experiences in the present reality, because you never really know where your story is headed, right? But sometimes when we're at the lowest point, maybe we prematurely think it's a dead end, and we just think that life sucks lah.
It's true. I think like I'm guilty of like what you mentioned about like nostalgia of friends. Right? I feel like, and I think it's true that at some point you will get over it and sort of like move on. But I think when your present reality is that satisfying, you just sort of get stuck. Like I remember like when I was dissatisfied with my car, I mean a few years ago, with that current state, that season or status of my friendships, right? Like the friendship situation, I think I was a bit bitter, I was a bit angry, I was just like not very open to making a lot more new friends, right? I just feel like,
were you trying to reconnect and hold on to your old friends?
I think I was just holding on to those memories of like, oh, didn't we say that we want to, you know, like want to buy houses that live nearby? You know, like I'm the, what's that show? Friends, right? Like the whole idea of friends,
everybody
right?
can
Like,
stay so near each other.
yeah, like it was once I mean, I think it was really a good.
Yeah, they were like 27.
Actually, they were very young in the show.
is it?
They were like, I think 24.
They just come out, were
yeah.
trying to find their way through life, yet they have each other.
So technically, right, we are much further than that already. They never show us what happened to them in their 30s.
It's true.
So we don't really know how
but I
their
think
story
that create
panned
that
out.
fantasy that, wow,
Yes,
You think that's possible?
It's possible that friends can really grow old together, you know, despite different things that happen. Like, we can stay close together, we can, you know, fulfill all these dreams together.
Yeah.
But I think when the present reality is just not that, then I think for me it just suddenly felt like, then what's the point? Like, what's the point of then making more new friends? What's the point of just like trying to do better?
It became a barrier for you to be open,
like,
to be.
If those
new
good old
friendships.
days cannot come to fulfillment, then
Yeah.
what more should I expect? Like, what more can I expect? Yeah. So I think I was stuck in that for a while.
Then did you get unstuck?
No. Yes. How did I even get? I mean,
I think sometimes it's not that you are stuck or unstuck, but sometimes you're stuck and sometimes you're not stuck, right? There are moments
Depends
that,
on the day.
on different days you
Yeah.
have different feelings.
Yeah.
But definitely, hopefully, it's like an upward,
Trajectory.
upward trajectory and upward kind of graph.
Okay, I want to share something about like friendships and like the past. So I remember in uni, right, I had this very good friend and it was a very unlikely friendship, like the way it was formed. It was like we were doing overseas community service and then we just bonded over many, many things. Yeah, then like I still remember, you know, like we even like said, you know, we like even evaluated our friendship, but in like a good way. We're like I think it's good that, you know, we try to speak more truth, be more daring to like point out things, you know, in our life to help each of us grow, that kind. Yeah, then we like, okay, let's try to do it. Then after that, when we both graduated and then she was posted overseas for a good 3 years, and it was like it was in US, so the time difference and everything, like we just drifted apart. So I think we started to miss like milestones and all. I mean, I was there for her wedding, and then but then after that, when she was in the US, just very hard to keep in contact. I remember then I got married like last year, right? Then for me, right, I was like, okay, I want to invite people who are in my present and I can also see in my future. Because if I think of inviting people
So you
from
never
the
invite
past,
her?
right? Yeah, I didn't.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so
Actually, nostalgic. How could you?
I'm such a bad person. Yeah, it was more of like, wow, okay, I really cannot invite everyone from the last 30, this is like,
That's the problem in my wedding. That's why my wedding very big. I
then lucky
cannot don't include anybody.
no. So like we couldn't cause budget and everything, right? And even the physical constraint of the
Okay, the
place.
space cannot lah.
The space, yeah. So so I was very decisive about like, present and future. Yeah, so I didn't invite her. So she saw my Instagram and everything. Then she was like, congrats. I was like, oh man, like I didn't know you got
found
married.
out through Instagram.
I can hear the heartbreaking ching ching ching.
Heartbreak for her. Yeah, so recently like we met up a few more times this year after like
When she's back.
when she's back after the wedding and everything. So but I'm also careful to not like expect too much. Yeah, because things are very, very different. Yeah, cannot like immediately think that, once you reconnect, it will be just like the good old times. Yeah. I think that is something that like I'm trying not to like get to, like that's not the end goal, but I think it's just reconnecting and see where things go along. So I feel like the role that nostalgia played in my life as an adult that is going through different transitions, sometimes it also makes me realize what I treasure like in the past and see if it's something that I can bring into like my current reality.
And in that sense, it's like a function.
Like
that nostalgia has.
correct,
in your life.
So like I'm trying to like think about it's not just about this like makes me feel, like thinking back in my past. I saw in secondary school, that's the thing I get the most nostalgic about, because that's where I felt like, wow, I was like the boldest, like I like don't care about what anyone says. Nowadays it's like what will my boss say? What will my like, like my team say? So sometimes what I miss, right, could be like the person I was. And sometimes I also feel to not be stuck, right, in the past is to ask myself like, why is that such a good memory to me? Like, why do I feel good about this?
Like, what do you value in that?
Yeah, correct. Like, what is it that makes me feel like, so the sweet part, the bitter part is probably because I compare to my current reality and say like, I'm not the kind of person like that I was like last time, or like the situation now is not the same as last time. And then I feel very sorry for myself. But I think about what made it sweet, and maybe from there, right, I can find something that I can still apply like today. Yeah, so whether is it like a certain character of myself that I admired, that maybe through adulting I lost along the way, but can I like regain that back? Yeah. So that's something I try to do like in my mind, so that I still bring myself back to the present.
And actually, to add on, right, because I think like I do social work, right? And I think when we talk about emotions, I think something that I learned through my work is actually that emotions play a certain function. And I think like what you're sharing, like actually looking at how nostalgia plays a function to you, like it tells you what you value and all of that. And in a sense, that helps you to turn nostalgia just from something that you look back to something that you look forward. Right,
Yeah,
it helps you to
can
tell you what is important to you moving forward.
Yes, exactly. And it can be a good reminder in your current season where maybe you just feel very lost and tossed about by many things. So it can serve like just a redirection back, or at least like a anchor or something that you can hang on to while you figure out your next step.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it's an interesting perspective that she actually brought out. Like, think about, to reflect and to consider like what was about that memory, or what was about that
That's so
friendship, or
precious.
that that time period that was so precious that you value, and to consider like, okay, in my current season, despite all the different changes, like, can I still, for example, like in friendships, like can I still find like similar traits, like the traits or the values that I could find in another person and build that friendship.
I feel one thing I also learned as a highly nostalgic person is that really different seasons can have different purposes and memories. I find sometimes the risk for a nostalgic person is that you're always trying to recreate the magic. Like, so you experience some like very, very positive friendships, or very positive maybe family dynamics in your childhood, or very positive moments where you really like move in passion, like you dream of something and you really like are not afraid to pursue it. And then sometimes we get older, we feel like we lose some of these things, and then you're trying to find your way back into that. But I don't think it's really finding your way back. I think it's just kind of recreating a new version of that in your current season of life. Because to be honest, like as a 15, 16-year-old, the way you experience friendship with all the factors, right? Proximity, how complicated life is, the other things you need to really give your time and energy to versus like at 25 versus at 35, it's all probably quite different. And I think it's quite a ridiculous expectation that at 35 you can experience friendship in the same form as when you were 15, 16. Yeah, I think for things to continue in your life, they probably do have to morph along the years, the decades, according to what's in your life then, right? And maybe if there is this form of like openness to appreciate what was in a previous season, learn what we enjoyed about it, and then be open to creating new memories in every new season, right? Maybe that's how you can experience that sweet spot of nostalgia being a sweet and nice reminder, but not a trap.
Wow.
Yeah.
Love that. I don't know. I that sort of like maybe 讲出我的心声 but maybe like, you know, the idea that you
It spoke your heart.
like maybe you want to recreate that magic
Yeah,
somewhere,
yeah.
you know, that you treasure and you want it to reappear, you know, you hope for that magic. But practically speaking and realistically speaking, it's never
You
good.
just don't have the factors and environment for that
you just
to
don't
happen.
have the energy, you don't have the time,
Yeah.
you don't have the whatever to recreate certain things. And I think also coming to terms that it's okay, that like every season serves a certain purpose. I guess as a person of faith, like as a Christian, like I believe that my God has something better for me.
Like he writes a good story.
That he
lah
write a good
in your
story.
life.
That
And
even
it hasn't ended.
yes, I think that's the hope, right? That yeah, it's okay. I don't have to keep creating magic. You know, like I just have to trust that God has more in store and that I've yet to see and yet to understand. And that's okay.
And in fact, I feel the fact that you have something in your past that you think back on so fondly and you wish so much to recreate. Actually, in some sense, it's a blessing that you got to experience something at such a beautiful. Is that we need the Pooh quote, right? Like how something like how blessed am I to have something that makes saying
yes.
goodbye so hard. Have you not
Really?
heard? Yeah, it's a Winnie the Pooh quote.
Can you say that again?
How blessed am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard?
Wow.
Yeah. So in Avengers terms, what is grief if not love persevering?
I know that too.
Yeah. But yeah, it's the
All
fact.
these like quotes and scripts like crazy.
I live in my head all the time. I tell you already.
Yeah, she's
Winnie
an
the
art
Pooh from my
student.
childhood.
That is
She
true,
thinks
true.
in like she
The
remembers
100
Scripts and
acre
quotes
wood.
and-
Yeah, but yeah, lor, it's the fact that actually you even got to experience such a sweet friendship that you would compare every other interaction against. But some people don't even have that experience, you know. Of course, then it can go either way lah. Either we just always feel like everything else is gonna pale in comparison, or we can learn that like, actually it was so beautiful that in my growing up, there was a phase of my life where I was so filled by the people around me who loved me so generously.
When I saw you tear, I think it struck something in me also. It's like, as much as we are here to just do a podcast, but actually this topic is more than, I mean, we're not just creating content, right? But like,
Guys,
we're
this is
getting...
always therapy for our guests. Y'all just don't know it when y'all sit down.
Yeah, that's why me and Nata are still doing these 45 episodes.
yeah.
It's like, it's really not just for content, but like we actually get this space to talk about these very universal things, right? And
Yeah, it's
I'm
true.
sure not just us, but even the
Yeah.
listeners, like everything. I mean, these are universal emotions and all of that. And
But you know, sometimes when we keep laughing about the old stories, right? I wonder at the back of my head, right? Without these old stories, do we have anything to talk about? Hey, but I know we got things to talk about, okay, if you're watching this.
Or is it like 80% of the convo is about the past?
Because like after you catch up about like what's happening in your current reality, it always defaults back to the same conversation, and that can feel like 1 hour. And then we just laugh and laugh and laugh. And I'm enjoying it, because I live in those memories and it's damn
Because you're
funny
the one
to
laughing
me.
at the person.
Yeah, but then my husband joins us sometimes. Then by the third time, he told me, actually,
you all say
at a
the same
certain point,
thing.
he said, at a certain point, I can
these
go
3 times
toilet. You
a day.
always laugh about the same thing. I also can tell the story. And it's true. Because it's the same punchlines at the same moments that everybody erupts in the same way.
I think it really takes intentionality to like, you know, like as much as it builds that foundation, maybe like of 80% of our friendship, right?
Yeah.
But the intention to like
Create
hey,
new
I want
memories, is
I
it?
want to know what's
Yeah,
going on now.
it's
Like what's
true.
going on now that I can laugh about
Yeah.
or cry about. Right? Like we have to keep creating. If not, then all this friendship will really be just
Then that's where it fizzles out, I feel. There's not
Yeah.
enough foundation
It's
to
like you're
carry
trying to
it
hold
through.
on to something that
Yeah.
should not be existing.
It's like
in
maybe
your
that
present.
foundation
Yeah.
only can carry you 10 years. So by the time 10
I think
years,
at some point, right? For example,
then
like if
不够
someone
了。
go overseas or someone like
Yeah.
give birth, that different, then you just realize that actually, is there value in us doing this over and over again, just laughing over the
Yes,
same
yes,
old
yes,
jokes?
yes, it's
then
true.
you realize that it loses its value.
It's true, it's true.
I think it's really the idea of not just looking back, but looking forward. Right.
Yeah. I feel like if we only look back, then we will really just be stuck. But that's why I think it's important to, I guess, always keep pushing, like always be intentional when we meet our old friends or when we think about, like just memories of our childhood and remember the person that we were, how, I guess not just how simple life is, but maybe how we appreciated life so much. Actually, we can appreciate life today also now.
It's true.
Correct. So what if like today, right, we start appreciating the things right now so that like 10, 20 years down the road, right, we don't just look back and feel bittersweet and think that we don't have it, in that 20 years time.
Yeah.
And maybe that's the antidote to the negative part of nostalgia, the antidote to being stuck in the past. Maybe it's like what you said, like being grateful in the present.
I hope
And
so.
thinking like today, what am I grateful for?
I haven't lived so long in life, but yeah, if we still run NGL 30 years from now,
Well, we know Yiqing will have this on a CD somewhere.
It's true. I'll print it out.
So, I mean, we've covered quite a bit about nostalgia today. Is there anything that you guys would want to say to our listeners who are quite nostalgic?
I think honestly, when I was first invited to come to this episode, I wasn't very sure why we were doing this episode because it's a very specific topic, right? And like not everyone is nostalgic. But I feel that through this conversation, actually I realized that this whole idea of looking back to the past, wanting to recreate the magic of the past, or even like, when we're talking about the songs that trigger our memories of a certain time,
Yeah.
actually these are all very universal.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
probably
yeah.
whoever
Yes.
is listening probably have shared those experiences as
Yeah.
well. And hopefully, it's been a fun it's been a fun conversation for everyone to listen to.
I want to say that the best years of your life are really ahead.
It's true.
Yeah. I guess it depends on what kind of lens that you put on to look at life. But if you think that actually that it's like every new day there's new opportunities to experience new things. I mean, not every day will be exciting, but if we can believe that, life ahead of us is still filled with things to learn, people that, you can meet that surprise you.
Yeah.
Then I think your best days are really, really ahead.
It's true. Like this whole topic, I think it's a very universal thing, right? That I think all young adults sort of go through that phase of just graduation, then first job, second job, third job, then just your friends and your life just sort of diverge into like different paths, right? And I think then you always hold on to some of this precious memory.
Yeah.
And I think it's true that how to not get stuck in them is to extract the good, like what do you truly enjoy about those memories and attempt to sort of create that in our current life season. And I guess as a father, I mean, from a lens of a father and a lens of a person of faith, right? I feel like for me, I always want to create new memories with my child, right? I always want to create a better memory for him today than yesterday's. And as a person of faith, I believe that my God has something better for me tomorrow, that my God wants to create something more beautiful for me the next day and in days to come. So I think that's the hope that
Wow.
I cling on to, and I hope the audience can also have that hope that whatever that this your current reality that is not very satisfying, it can get better.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think two main concluding thoughts from me. One is that there are always going to be good days and bad days. Yeah, but I think every season really does have its purpose, and it's something that we have to discover. Like, I don't think anybody can tell you like what, like really just directly tell you this is the purpose of this season of your life. Like, I think you have to put in that hard work to kind of discover that for yourself. Then I think the other thought I have is that we invest in what is precious to us. So sometimes I feel in that nostalgia and looking back on, let's say, friendships or memories, like we live so much in the past that we forget that it needs to be built in the present. Like you just kind of long for people to maybe appear in your life or for this friendship dynamic to still be existing in your life. But actually a lot of these friendship dynamics were hard work in the past.
Yeah, it didn't just come like that.
Yeah, and so if we want it in our present, it's not so much about just wishing for it to appear again, but it's taking very practical steps to invest in it, to put in the hard work. And until we've done that, I think it's too early to say that it's a thing of the past.
Yeah.
So I think that's how I see it. Yeah. So thank you for joining us for today's episode. We hope that you enjoyed where this entire episode went. I think we had no idea it was going to land up here, but it was quite an enjoyable conversation, reflecting on nostalgia. And Zell, even as a person who's not super nostalgic, I feel you brought so much fresh perspective.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, really. Yeah, I think your objectivity actually brought a lot of perspective to how we can make sense of our good memories.
I really, really enjoyed hearing you guys share about how you hold on to things. And to me, right, it's something that I want to build in my present. Don't need to save phone space just pay for cloud storage. Take more photos, take more videos. Yeah, so that you can remember the good parts and why.
Yeah. So if you enjoyed this episode, you can give us a like, you can subscribe to our channel. You can also send it to some of your old friends if you've been missing them and you want to just open up some conversations.
Yeah.
And if you like our content, you can find us on socials at ngl.people on Instagram and TikTok. You can find our podcast on YouTube, Apple, as well as Spotify podcasts. And you can also join our Telegram channel for behind the scenes footage of what happens, as well as info about our upcoming events. And so with that, we'll see you in our next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.